Hello, my name is Kailee Smith, and I'm a geology major at Fort Lewis College. My senior research is mapping mass wasting hazards on Annette Island Reserve, Alaska. I was recently visiting up in August of 2021, and this landslide occurred, which blocked this road that leads from the town all the way to the ferry terminal, and it knocked out the power to the ferry, so it could not run as well. And so, as you can see in this location map, it is in the southeast of Alaska, so it is about 3 hours from Anchorage, Alaska by plane, and an hour and 30 minutes by plane to Seattle. And so it rains fairly a lot, and during this day it actually rained about 8 inches just that day, and it continued to rain for a couple more days. And so when I came back to college, I figured that I wanted to help my community and figure out where on the island has landslides already occurred and be able to produce a landslide hazard map. Based on this, I was able to look at LiDAR data as well as satellite imagery to be able to figure out where these landslides have already existed on the island. And to figure out how to create a landslide hazard map, I used these data sets in order to help me make this. And so I used geological rock type, slope, aspect, land cover, average precip, and digital elevation models. And so based on these data sets, I was able to extract each of these landslides that I have mapped and create these charts at the very bottom. And based on these charts is how I created this landslide hazard equation that I would use in ArcGIS to form the landslide hazard map. And so I had to reclassify each of these layers except the digital elevation model. And based on reclassifying each of these, I gave them a score, a number value score, and that will help the raster calculator to be able to produce the landslide hazard score. So for geological rock type, if it wasn't in salt, I gave it a 0 and gave salt a 1 value. For slope, I gave 40 to 50 degrees a value of 1 and everything else a value of 0. Aspect, if it wasn't southeast or east, I gave it a 1. And then for southeast and east, I gave it a value of 2. Land cover, if it wasn't a forest, I gave it a 0. And if it was a forest, I gave it a 1. For average precip, I gave 3.5 to 4 millimeters a 1, and everything else a 0. So when that is put into a raster calculator, it automatically generated each of those as the weighted score that I gave it, and it produced this landslide hazard map. And as you can see here, the score goes from 2 to 72, and so within that range, if it was in the red, it was a really high score, so a potential landslide could easily occur there. And if it was in the blue, it was a very low score. Therefore, you don't really have to worry as much about a landslide happening, but there is still a little bit of worry. And so based on how this project has turned out, there are multiple further questions, like why is the southeast and east aspect where majority of the landslides are occurring, as well as did this model actually work on where I have already mapped. And so I will say this has been a really fun project, and I look forward to working more on it. Thank you.